The Nigerian Customs Service has announced the suspension for 1 month of the clampdown on private jet owners over import duty evasion. Now, the service says private jet operators whose aircraft were grounded over alleged non-payment of import duties have begun the process of regularizing their duty payments. It says the decision to ground the private jets came after the expiration of the earlier ultimatum. Reports emerged that no fewer than 60 private jets flying in the country had been grounded over alleged failure to pay import duty. Now, the grounding of the aircraft started at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos, and the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, and other airports on Monday, and continued till Tuesday. Now, this comes 8 months after Customs threatened to ground over 60 private jets, for unpaid import duty. We're now joined from our Lagos studio by Air Commodore Ademola Onitiju, retired President, Aviation Safety Roundtable, joining us on Newsnight tonight. Thank you very much for your time. First off, I mean, how is it that private jet owners could, get away with non-payment of, import duty for as long as they have? And what are your thoughts on the unsealing by the customs, giving them, some kind of breather, 1 month to pay up?
Yeah, good evening, viewers. It's a pleasure to be here again. Regarding the Nigeria Customs Service suddenly waking up to realize that import duties were supposed to be paid by private aircraft operators, it's strange. To us in the Aviation Roundtable, we felt it's an exhibition of poor public sector good practice. What we mean by that is, just like we have it in the private sector, you talk about good corporate practice. Institutions were set up to deliver on certain things. Persons occupying these institutions should know what their brief or their mandate are. And aviation has as its peak the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, which is a representative, more or less, of the world governing body that regulates and prescribes global best practices for aviation nations. The ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization. NCAA has a way of ensuring that aircraft that come into Nigeria, they pay the proper dues, due processes are followed, and they clear them. And for these aircraft to even operate in the Nigerian airspace, many of them, especially those that are foreign registered, they pay dues, they pay money levied by the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. This includes the flight operations clearance certificate, the maintenance clearance certificate, and the rest. So, and then again, aviation is more or less a social service sector. It is a catalyst for economic development, tourism, and other business endeavors. The federal government of Nigeria has tried as much as possible to live up to this. At least that is what we have seen with the present administration, led by President Bola Tinubu, and of course the minister, the Olorogo Festus Keyamo, Advocate of Nigeria. And for us, in our engagements with him, while we said what they are doing so far is okay, we felt there could be need to do more. So when Nigerian Customs now came up with this, we looked at it as an overzealous attempt to raise revenue by all means. If they had bothered to check with the authorities in the aviation industry, probably they will know that the way aviation is globally is not for you to regard it as an item for you to put import duties on in view of government policies. Presently, we at the Aviation Roundtable, we've been advocating for government to ensure some palliatives or make the environment more conducive for aviation operators. And in their own bits, we have seen some elements in that regard. And it's quite like throwing spanner into the works that customs would choose to suddenly remember that custom duties were not being paid. When in actual fact, government policies have been to even exempt from duties aircraft spares or things that will facilitate aviation practice in Nigeria. So it's quite surprising. And it's like a flip-flop that they now woke up suddenly again and felt that they should unseal what they purportedly seal, as far as I'm concerned, wrongfully. Right. Due processes are supposed to be followed.
All right, Captain.
And we emphasize the...
Go ahead, you're emphasizing the point.
We emphasize collaboration in the aviation industry. Incidentally, the Nigerian Customs operates in that environment too.
Okay.
And you would have expected that a simple check with the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority would have revealed to them that it would be an overkill in the bid to raise revenue.
All right.
To start asking for import duties.
All right, Air Commodore, thank you for making that point, because some have even argued that they already pay a lot of fees, such as the PNCF, the landing, overflight, and navigation fees to the Nigerian government because they do not operate commercially within the country. But I wanted to ask you if you agree with those stakeholders who say this undermines the government's efforts to attract investors, particularly into the aviation sector. Is it that bad? What has happened with this flip-flop, as you put it, by the Nigerian Customs? Some would say it was an overlap of agencies with the NCAA and Customs coming in. But how much of a damage, or if any at all, this is likely to cause?
Well, as of now, well, we are seeing it being perpetrated on the private jet owners, yes. But then they are part of aviation, a significant part. And as at now, going by the procedures at the NCAA in bringing in aircraft or permitting aircraft to be flown in the Nigerian airspace, if you want a policy along that line, then go ahead and make a policy. But it should not be retrospective or should be of any retroactive effect. If there is nothing in the laws that said they should pay import duties before coming in, other than those things that NCAA regulates, then you proceed with a bill, pass a law, but not for those that are already in, maybe for future ones. As for the effects, of course, it is capable of scaring investors away because in some instances, apart from the private jets, aircraft belong to somebody else and they come to you only maybe as a lease, and that promotes business. And that's because you could not raise capital locally to be able to buy those aircraft or fleet of aircraft for you to operate in the airspace. So that might, if there are uncertainties in what the government policy might be, it can, of course, discourage investors from coming to Nigeria. And that will negate the various efforts that the present administration, through its Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, is trying to do to restore international investors' confidence in the Nigerian aviation. You have seen several trips he made, which we at Aviation Roundtable commended, although we still felt he could do more. You saw what he did with the Cape Town Convention, the practice directions, which he was able to put in place. All those ones increase Nigeria's aviation practice global rating. And for you, same government, an agency of government to, well, as far as I am concerned, overzealously seek to bring this into being, I do not think is the best in the context of what we are presently experiencing. But it's good that the Comptroller General of Customs, perhaps he was unaware of what his officers engaged in that context, and he has sought to reverse it. It's a good development. So if you want to make a policy, go ahead and make the policy, but it should not be retroactive or retrospective. That's the much I want to say on that.
All right. Mr. Onitiju, now there are indications that the airplanes actually carry foreign registration numbers or call signs to evade customs duties. Are you aware of that? I wonder what you can say about that. And also that, the airplanes are carrying foreign registration numbers and have exceeded, their grace period, and that's why the customs went ahead to, ground this aircraft.
Look at each case on its own merits. And the issue of being foreign registered is not criminal. There are several aircraft that go into countries' airspaces so long as they receive clearances for which they pay for, and even for maintenance. And I mentioned earlier, there is the flight operators clearance certificates which they are given and they pay for it. They pay in foreign currency to the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. Similar thing with when they are talking about maintenance. You pay maintenance clearance, you pay to obtain maintenance clearance certificates. All these are the ways that the regulator seeks to keep them in check and ensure that the best of global practices are observed. So if that is what it is, if you want a departure from that which is, I believe you should do more than just suddenly waking up and remembering that import duties. And what's more, in some instances, like I told you, apart from being foreign registered, they could be foreign owned. It might be that the so-called owner might be a lessor. And in some instances again, he might not even have finished offsetting the payment. And you can't claim that he is really the owner legally until when he has discharged all his outstanding obligations. So as far as I'm concerned, I do not think that in any way changes my view.
Okay.
All right. I think we can leave the conversation there. Thank you so much, Air Commodore Onitiju, retired, for sharing your perspective on the development in the aviation sector and the customs.